we are social creatures, right? So if you are accepted, so if you go, let's say you go to Scotland, let's say you leave London, right? And this is a point I'm going to add on to the one I made in the last podcast about rappers coming from one environment and going to the next and thriving. Yeah. So if you leave a rough area in London where you no one you feel it in your bones as a human being, no one cares about you. You feel as if like you don't belong and people see you as a threat. And then what happens is you become a threat because
Yeah.
you start to take on
Hmm.
the signals around you, right? That's why you see a lot of kids doing nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're soaking up those signals.
Yeah.
If I was still here when I was a kid, it could have happened. I've soaking up those signals. You're going to be a criminal. You're going to be a criminal. People treat you different. You could feel it. We're human beings. Like I said, this means nothing. You feel it. Everybody feels it. If you move now, like I moved to Barbados, yeah, and straight away, I'm Barbadian.
Mm.
Everybody is like, you're not British, you're Barbadian, you're one of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel a part of a society, you don't stick out. If you get into trouble, the response isn't, yeah, we knew it. The response is, I can't believe it. That's not you. And then you go, oh, okay. Somebody had belief in me as a good person. And then you grow to be a good person. Yeah. So the problem is in places like London, there's no real room. There is room. Again, it depends on your environment and circumstances. But for certain people, there's no room to feel like a human being. Because all these guys that you see on the block, all this knife crime and stuff, if you show them, yo, dude, what's up? I think you are somebody. I think you can be somebody, and you're a human being. You're cool, and you invest in them, they will then start to invest in themselves
Mm.
and then go, oh, maybe I'm not so bad after all.
Exactly. You,
And
they feel you by doing that you make them feel different about themselves. Because I remember in school they had mentors who were just like there to help the young people, and
yeah,
some who were from the minority backgrounds. They felt good about themselves. They felt like they could do something. And up till today, when I speak to some of my friends from school, they remember these people because they made them feel like, yes, you are you and you can do it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it does have an effect.
it does.
And I think that's the way we should all see each other, that as individuals rather than where they come from, because once you add that to it, then you have basically you are you yeah, the way you think of them is just 90% of it is probably wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
If you see the person, like for me, for instance, I'm married to an English woman,
Yeah,
and some have got a problem with that, even from my race. And sometimes it could creep up in my head thinking, oh, have I let my race down? I went for a white person and all that kind of stuff. You know, um, but I married her not because of her skin color. So if I had gone for her just because of the color of her skin, the good qualities that she has, the way she makes me feel, the way she treats me, the way she understands me as a human being, I would have just said, you know, because I've dated all sorts of races. It could have been who I would have ended up with, could have been anyone. It's not, so it's the way she treated me, the way she made me feel. It could have been a Ghanaian, it could have been an English person, it could have been someone from Barbados. But and that's exactly when you see someone, and even after I got married, I had to do my best to not overthink it, because I remember there's times where I phoned you thinking that, oh boy, like,
yeah,
especially when you see issues surrounding what's going on and how Black people are being treated, you feel like, oh, am I letting them down by being on the other side? But
yeah,
then again, I can't think like the way things were back in the day. You don't want that, if you don't want racism to exist, and if you don't want people to look down upon you, then it still has to start with you. Yes, what has happened has been really bad, but then I don't want to be like a slave master. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we can't keep talking about equality if I'm still gonna be like, yeah, mine is better than yours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that right there again is that last point is a good point
Mm-hmm.
about human beings and human psychology. It's about finding the middle ground. Yeah. If you notice all through human history, right? Let's start with England. Yeah. People left England because they felt oppressed by the English power structure. Yeah. So they felt oppressed. They wanted equality. They felt oppressed. They left, went to America. Yeah. And instead of learning from that, decided to be what they fled and oppressed other people. So
Yes.
it's like human beings get crushed to feel as low as possible. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of learning from it and going, I don't ever want to do that again, what they tend to do is crush somebody else to feel better about themselves, to build themselves back
100%.
up.
100%. So it's funny because in building ourselves back up again, it doesn't mean that we need to look down on another person. You could build yourself up as a person without having to destroy another person.
But unfortunately, the way human beings are made up, that will always be the cycle, unfortunately, because we know, yeah, from a certain age onwards, your brain decides to go narcissistic or codependent or balanced. Yeah. And usually when people come from trauma, they either turn into servants, like, oh, I don't want to hurt you, and then they get trampled on more, or they turn into wolves and they devour people to feel better about themselves because they say in their mind, what happened to me will never happen to me again. I'm going to do it to you before it happens to
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
So you have people leaving one country, going to the next, doing 3 times, doing what they fled from, doing it 3 times worse. Yeah. And here's the thing, you would think the problem with equality in this world, the reason why it always swings like this and, and it's hard to get in the middle, is that people who are um, disenfranchised and people who are oppressed, no matter what race, because we're human beings, this again, this doesn't mean anything. This operates the same through every race. Yeah. You have two likelihoods. They will, if they ever get power, they will go, we'll never do that. We'll make sure that never happens again. We're going to try and help our fellow man, yada, yada. Or to get equality, they're going to crush everything in their path.
That's it. Yeah.
So the problem is with human beings, equality means superiority. And
That's the problem. So basically, we don't even though that word is so simple, we don't seem to understand that word.
we don't.
Yeah.
We just all we know is about coming out on top, you know. And for somebody who's in this superior position, like they don't see equality either because anytime things become equal, they see it as an attack on their superiority. And think about it from a psychological point of view. That superiority is their identity. It makes them feel like something. Whereas underneath that, they feel worthless. So if you got somebody trying to take that away from them, they're gonna fight hard. Like, oh, you're attacking me and this is a infringement on my rights. No, you need therapy. That's what you need. Yeah. But
It's true.
but you can see from a human perspective
Mhm,
how they will view it.
mhm.
And another point with your marriage, on top of that, we live in a superficial society. So when we see two different people, different races or different looks or whatever, we look at them and we see it from our point of view, like, oh, that's a black guy with a white girl. You know, how? Why? We tend to forget that outside of that, we just connect with people on levels. So
Exactly. Yeah, and if you do that, you're taking the human feeling away because now it's saying we're going back to the same problem again.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like, oh, I don't, oh, yeah,
yeah,
it's like I don't want to be with them because of the color of their skin, then it's not helping the problem, is it?
No,